right, I don't even know if I'm in here, but this is Peter Brusso and Dick Bentley. We're going to have a seniors podcast in the middle of a restaurant. And we have with us Charlie. Last name, Charlie?
Greenberg. Charlie Greenberg.
Charlie Greenberg, and he's a great travel guy, and I'm going to get behind the camera, and Dick's going to carry this whole show. Huh, Dick?
I guess so.
You bet you will. Okay, Dick, go for it.
Hi, Charlie. How you doing?
Hi, Dick. Fine. Good to be here.
It's good to have you here. And as you know, Peter and I have started this series of podcasts on the website that deals with scams that are affecting the seniors today. And there's just a plethora of them. And in talking with you, you mentioned that there's things that you should watch out for in the travel world. And you're gracious enough to give us some time. Maybe you could give us a quick overview of it.
Sure. Scams are everywhere. Unfortunately, travel is a part of what people try to take advantage of. In way of a quick 30-second background, I'm Charlie Greenberg. My company is Your Travel Agency. And we do all kinds of travel, but we specialize in cruise vacations. And it's a little bit of a contradiction, since I enjoy sending people on wonderful vacations, to talk about scams that could hurt them. But I think it's important for people to be aware of what they can do, of how they can be hurt.
Well, absolutely. And you know, the whole purpose of our podcast is to make people aware of the potential scams that are out there. And one of the things that we've mentioned in our previous ones is we don't want people to think that everybody that they deal with is trying to scam them. We're just trying to give them, hey, here's the scam. Here's what you should look out for, and and here's the things you should do if you've been a victim of scams. So we like to keep it on a very informative note, but not make everybody feel like the whole world's out there scamming.
Yeah, we don't want to scare anybody.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I guess the one overriding issue would be, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And you get something that is showing a great bargain of $50 for a round-trip air anywhere in the country, or a cruise, 7-night cruise for $100. There's more to it. Nobody is going to be able to sell that at that price, and you have to be sensitive to that. For example, there are fraudulent vacation packages where somebody will get an email or a physical piece of mail offering them that kind of a great deal. I made up the numbers, but it certainly is going to look very appealing. And then, after, it requires a deposit. You have to send something in. And that's certainly one of the first warning signs, if you have to put some money up front. And after you pay your money, you'll get a certificate. And the certificate gives you the right to request, let's talk about cruises, a cruise vacation. And the cruise vacation, in order to get it, in order to take it, you'll have to put down 3 alternate dates. And the likelihood is, I would say 99% of the time, none of those dates will be available. And they'll send it back to you and say, sorry, try again. And you try again, and again, those dates aren't available. And if you pursue it long enough and hard enough, which means you have to plan for when your family can get away with you, you have to plan for when you can take time off from work, you have to plan your airfare. You can't do that until you know that your cruise is set. So if you do get it, what you get is a bottom bunk, least expensive accommodation, stateroom, cabin on the ship. And it's just not a very good deal. Then they'll start pitching you whether you want an upgrade. And the upgrades, which almost everybody will want, are for the list prices. And cruise lines discount a lot. They always are running specials, but this kind of an organization will charge the full price in the brochure. So the bottom line is, as I said at the beginning, no free lunch, and you're probably going to wind up paying at least the same or more, and have tons more inconvenience too.
How do these people contact you? Is it by email? Is it mailing list? Or, how do they know? How do they get a hold of you so you can, they can try and get on board?
Really, all of the above. Email, as most people know, is very inexpensive. You can send it out. If it's physical mail, they have to pay postage and printing costs. and they have to rent the list. But for email, they can capture your name from some of the scammers, and they just put it out there. Maybe it's 1/100th of 1% that will respond, but that's okay because they don't have any real interest. Now, there are many legitimate direct mail offers for cruises and for vacations, and I don't want to tarnish the whole bunch of them because of the bad guys, but it's something that you should be aware of.
Right. I mean, again, we're dealing with a small percentage of the people who are in your industry, and you mentioned if it's too good to be true, it's probably not. On our last podcast, we discussed the golden rules of that the seniors should live by as far as trying to avoid a scam, and that was one of the things we mentioned. So let me ask you a question. What would be the golden rule of how to plan the cruise or any kind of travel using the
Okay. Well, we're moving away a little bit from the topic of scams, but I'm a travel agent, and using a knowledgeable travel agent is really the best way to go. Travel agents can get the same prices or even better than a lot of the internet companies that advertise cruises, and you get the personal service of an agent who's going to say, so for example, if you get an offer for a free cruise, one of these phony offers for a free cruise, it could be that the ship that they plan to put you on is inconsistent with your lifestyle. So if you enjoy quiet evenings, or if you enjoy having an enrichment lecture on board the ship, that's not going to be the ship you're likely to be on. That's the role of an agent. An agent will make sure that the experience you want is consistent with the experience you get.
Okay, great. All right, Charlie, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. We're going to relocate outside. Maybe the conditions will be a little better, not
Sure.
quite as noisy.
Great.
So we'll pick it up in 5 minutes. Relocated, hopefully, to a little bit quieter section of the restaurant. And in talking with Charlie Greenberg of your travel agency, we're discussing scams that affect our senior citizens, and we discussed one in particular, and he was talking about if you get an email or a mailer or an offer of a travel package, that the price is so low it seems too good to be true. Well, it's probably not true. There's probably some hidden connections where you have a hard time booking the dates you want, and then the accommodations are substandard, and there's all sorts of issues.
Absolutely right.
So we want to continue on with that, and Charlie, talk about the other ones, or somewhere in that.
I'd like to talk about some tips for avoiding getting scammed. And this isn't just for seniors, it's for everybody. But we think that seniors are more vulnerable. They tend to be more trusting sometimes. So I'm going to give you some tips. First of all, look out for unsolicited emails and, as Dick just said, hard to believe deals. If it doesn't pass the smell test, there's probably something wrong. And then find out if you're working with a travel agent, and make sure you get all the details of the trip in advance. If you get vague promises that you're going to stay at a 5-star hotel, the question is, 5-star by whose standards? I'm not sure. And you want to make sure that you're going to be in a hotel property that you're comfortable with. Think again if you get something that says you've won a free vacation. Nobody gives out free vacations. And so often these are just thinly veiled ploys to get your credit card, which would verify your so-called eligibility. And if you're really want to give your you don't want to give your credit card number away to somebody you don't know with the promise of a potential free vacation. Then, if you pass all of that, check out the company that you're working with. Take a look online and do a search for reviews of that company and see if there are positive reviews or negative reviews, if people have been burned by them in the past. Let's see what rating they get from the Better Business Bureau, and those would all be very helpful. Be on the lookout for something that says we're a travel club and you're going to get a free membership in the travel club. That's kind of a cousin to a free vacation package. Often these services do very little except charge your credit card an upfront fee, and then you have a very hard time cashing in anything that they promise. And when you do buy the trip, don't send a check, don't send cash, of course, or a bank check. Always use a credit card, because that way, if there's a problem, you have some recourse with the credit card issuer, either Visa, Amex, MasterCard, or Discover. If you use the card, you'll have some recourse. And I think the last thing is be aware of timeshare deals. Lots of these free vacations are tied to timeshare presentations, and it's okay if you want to sit in a room for a 90-minute presentation and have somebody talk to you about the wonderful advantages of buying a timeshare in northern Wyoming. But if that's not your thing, then you could probably do just as well on your own. So these are some of the things that you should be looking for when you get offers for travel. As we said a few minutes ago, the best way to go is with a knowledgeable local travel agent who can have contact with you and look out for your best interest.
Those are great tips and good advice. That's a question, when you do decide to book the trip, what's the standard deposit that you should be looking to put down?
Well, that varies. The deposit can be as little as $50 per person for a cruise, all the way up to $500 per person. A lot of it depends on the cruise line's own policy. But if it's a legitimate cruise line, there should be no problem with putting down a deposit. It goes towards the ultimate cost of the cruise, which you're agreeing to. But another interesting point about that is to make sure to check the cancellation schedule. So if you're booking it 6 months before the trip, the question is, up until what date can I get my money back? So if I have a problem and I can't make the trip, then I need to know when I can put in a request to get 100% of my money back. That brings up another issue, which is probably especially important for senior citizens, and that's insurance, travel insurance. Most insurance companies will cover a pre-existing condition if you buy the insurance within a short period after you make the first deposit. If you wait beyond that period, usually 14 or 15 days, then they'll sell you the insurance, but it won't cover pre-existing conditions. And most of us have some pre-existing condition. So you should protect yourself by considering insurance. Travel insurance can be had from the travel supplier, the cruise line, the tour company, or you can buy the travel insurance independently from companies like Travel Guard or Allianz, which is the parent company of Fireman's Fund. Again, a good travel agent will help you to do that.
Well, that's great information. Is there anything else as far as scams that might be, put out there as you're planning a trip, other than the kind of get your attention bait and switch type of thing, a real low price, and then try and book it? Is there anything else that consumers should be aware of?
Well, these guys are sneaky. It's a changing market, and every time we try to warn people about a potential scam, they'll come up with another idea. In the next section of this interview, I'd like to talk about things that can happen while you're on your trip. Once you're on the ship or you're on vacation, you want to make sure your trip is as enjoyable as possible, and we'll talk about that next.
Okay, great. I think, Peter, do you have any questions?
No, I think that's great, guys. I hope the sound turns out okay, and we'll move on to the next interview.
Yeah, we
Okay, good.
Just forgive us for some of the background noise. We're doing this live remote in a restaurant in Coachella Valley.
There you go. Say goodnight, Dick.
Okay, take care, Peter.